everybody, welcome to my creative writing channel, Critical Storytelling, where I use critical analysis to help you tell your story. My name is Ella, and I wanted to take a second look at the persona today. I'm going to introduce a new poet, Robert Frost, from the modernist period, and we're going to look at his poem, The Mending Wall. So we're looking at the persona again. We want to see if we can recognize themes of, well, who exactly is it that's telling the story? What is their point of view? What are they about? Okay. It's just Mending Wall. There's no thee. Something there is that doesn't love a wall, that sends the frozen ground swell under it and spills the upper boulders in the sun and makes gaps even two can pass abreast. The work of hunters is another thing. I have come after them and made repair where they have left not one stone on a stone, but they would have the rabbit out of hiding to please the yelping dogs. The gaps, I mean, no one has seen them made or heard them made, but at spring mending time we find them there. I let my neighbor know beyond the hill, and on a day we meet to walk the line and set the wall between us once again. We keep the wall between us as we go. To each the boulders that have fallen to each. And some are loaves, and some so nearly balls we have to use a spell to make them balance. Stay where you are until our backs are turned. We wear our fingers rough with handling them. Oh, just another kind of outdoor game, one on a side. It comes to little more. There where it is, we do not need the wall. He is all pine, and I am apple orchard. My apple trees will never get across and eat the cones under his pines, I tell him. He only says, good fences make good neighbors. Spring is the mischief in me, and I wonder if I could put a notion in his head. Why do they make good neighbors? Isn't it where there are cows? But here there are no cows. Before I built a wall, I'd ask to know what I was walling in or walling out, and to whom I was like to give offense. Something there is that doesn't love a wall, that wants it down. I could say elves to him, but it's not elves exactly, and I'd rather he said it for himself. I see him there, bringing a stone grasped firmly by the top in each hand, like an old stone savage armed. He moves in darkness, as it seems to me, not of woods only in the shade of trees. He will not go behind his father's saying, and he likes having thought of it so well, he says again, good fences make good neighbors. So, we're looking at a barrier, and we're thinking like all of the functions that a wall can serve, to keep invading forces out, to keep the structure of a house intact, to keep us safe, to keep things out, to keep people in. It provides stability. The persona himself seems to not see the purpose of the wall. He kind of is like a little hippie-fied there, that, like very idealistic, which is not like modernism, because there seems to be in modernism, we looked at like the mundane everyday in the red wheelbarrow, but a lot of that comes from how after getting used to so many aspects of society being mass-produced and like the ease of production creating an affluent society, people got kind of disillusioned with the way, there was some like upward economic mobility with that, but also there seemed to be like a loss of just the wonder and amazement of life. So here we have he recognizes the natural processes that bring about the need to continue the process of building the wall, which does bring up that element of disillusionment with modernism. So, frozen groundswell, and this is a hyphenated term. There's something that doesn't love a wall that sends the frozen groundswell under it. So, in the soil, there's, some amount of water, and it gets frozen. As it freezes, it contracts, it expands, and as it expands, everything that is associated, everything that is nearby gets pushed upward and outward. And so there is a natural process where it spills the upper boulders into the sun. So evidently the weight of the wall that keeps that at the bottom in place, but the upward mobility will send what is at the top to either side. And so, but then he points out the work of hunters is another thing. So there's an element of entitlement there that doesn't love a wall, because he's had to come after them and make a repair. It's almost as if they do, like it just falls upon him to fix their mess, that they would have the rabbit out of hiding to please the yelping dogs. I mean, this isn't like a fox we're talking about, it's like tearing up, the hen house. This is a rabbit seeking shelter, and I mean, and they won't have it. So, I think he is pointing out that, I don't think he likes that he's having to go through all of, this extra work. It seems there is an overall theme of senselessness, meaninglessness, that falls under the disillusionment in the modernist era. So it's there's a sense of so much trouble being involved in this act of building the wall, and the reasons why the wall must be built, one of them being the natural process. And to him, that, is supporting his idea that it really doesn't need to be there anyway. So, the gaps, no one has seen them made or heard them made. So there's an element of mystery there that, there's just something that doesn't love a wall. It just keeps being torn down or fallen away, and yet here I let my neighbor know beyond the hill. So this neighbor is far away, and so that gives the impression that, yeah, it really does seem like there shouldn't be a wall there. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but we are going to look at like what the wall provides, and you get a sense that it's not like they're so close together that the boundary needs like constantly like access to understand like this is your side and mine, because he's beyond the hill. So on a day we meet to walk the line and set the wall between us once again. So there is a separateness of the work that they do when they meet. They are involved in, they're doing the same task, but their work is cut out for them differently depending on the natural processes. And look, we have to use a spell to make them balance. I like when I see elements of romanticism emerge throughout other periods of literature, because it reminds me that it's always there, and that, we can go so far into any space age with all the technology in the world, we're never going to get away from the magic of nature. and the healing aspects that that provides. So he has to make a spell to make these rocks balance, and that just seems magical and romantic to me. So another aspect of the modernist disillusionment is the apple trees. He is all pine, and I am apple orchard. My apple trees will never get across. So again, he is really making a good argument for why the wall should not be there. It seems very senseless. Okay, spring is the mischief in me. That seems like a romantic element as well. That there's he just wants to ask the question. He just wants to propose to the man that we don't do this again. And why do they make good neighbors? Why is this fence making us good neighbors? Because there is no other assets that pass back and forth. So why would we need to know whose is what? Well, before he built the wall, he would ask what he was walling in or walling out. That to me is a modernist element of the struggle, for him to have the purpose and not just say, well, it's just the way things are done now. He has it's a long notion. He if I could put a notion in his head, he goes on. The whole idea is it's like 7 lines of thought, of like questions and pointing out why do they make good neighbors. There's no cows here. He would like to know what exactly what he was walling in or walling out, and to whom I was like to give offense. And that is classic Robert Frost right there. Offense. OFFENSE. But it sounds like a fence. Like a picket fence. So, again, we have clever. So we have another magical element with the elves that maybe there are elves that live in the woods, in the orchard, and they come along at night and like move the rocks around. So because they don't want the wall to be there. Maybe it's hard for them to get from the pines to the apple orchard, and it creates a barrier that's more work. But you know, the neighbor is not having any of that, and the persona knows that to be the case, and I'd rather he said it for himself. So he understands that he's coming about the argument that the wall should not be there with like a couple of different modes, like one being the logical questions that he's asking, the continuous process that says this is just useless, and then like also the magical elements are there that is just, it just falls apart. Like why do we continue this? And then also, I just wanted to look at this language separate from any themes we're discussing. Bringing a stone grasped firmly by the top in each hand like an old stone, savage armed. So there's also something that he's making it out to be violent, that there's an element of savagery in continuing to do this senseless act. I mean, because what is it for, really? And he moves in darkness, as it seems to me. He mentions shade. And then we finish with, he will not go behind his father's saying. So, he likes having thought of it so well, he says again, good fences make good neighbors. So, there's another element of the disillusionment is that this is not his idea. This is like a hand-me-down value system. that his neighbor feels safe in continuing to do this over and over again. And the repetition of the act of building it furthers the theme of senselessness in the modern era. Okay, so we went through once looking at the persona's perspective is such that they don't need to be doing this wall building, mending wall. So the poet, though, by entitling the poem Mending Wall, I would suggest means that there is a purpose. And we need to look at that. So there's an element of healthy boundaries. And that's not really going to lend itself to such like stark language that we can really point out. There's just this overall understanding of you stay on your side, I stay on mine, and that there is something very healthy in that. So, from the disillusionment, the natural processes, the entitlement of hunters, the just the lack of reasoning that there is to have this there separating them, we can take order from the chaos from the simple act of building the wall. It brings the neighbors together. There's a sense of, well, maybe they would never see each other if they didn't get together from beyond the hill to rebuild this at times and set the wall between us once again. So it's a way of building familiarity, possibly. They have their separate work to do, but in meeting to do it, maybe they get to catch up. This poem was written in 1914, so it's likely they didn't have phones installed. Continuous process. Okay, the way things have always been done. So that in itself might not be a good reason to do something. I mentioned hand-me-down value systems. I mean, this is land we're talking about. And so his neighbor has reverence for that. And his father taught him that, we respect boundaries and we need to make a good show of that. So let's respect the order that we can provide. It may be a continuous process. It may not be a logical thing to do, but we're going to do it because it's natural to build a wall, to provide structure and stability. Seems to be a natural thing to happen in Mother Nature. Like you think about a bird building her nest. That is a type of wall. Okay, so it does serve healthy boundaries, and the reunification that I mentioned with them coming together to mend the wall. And also, I would like to say that the act of coming together to reestablish healthy boundaries, there's a celebration of differences. So we get the opinion that the persona has this very idealistic outlook on life, like let's just let the thing fall, and forget about it. But having a difference of opinion and him respecting the difference of opinion of his neighbor is a highly valued aspect of civilized society, and we need to respect that. And I feel like Robert Frost is acknowledging that by writing the poem with the persona's perspective. He points out the neighbor, he's just doing this, but when he names it Mending Wall, he leaves clues that maybe the traditional way to do things by respecting differences of opinion, celebrating our differences, coming together to celebrate our differences. There is something wonderful in that. And so even though it is a modernist poem, and there are elements of disillusionment and senselessness in it, we have the nature there, the apple orchard, the pine. We have the natural processes. We have the elements of magic, of romanticism, the spell work, the elves. You know, it is all there to counteract the entitlement of the hunters and the senseless, just, well, this is the way it's always been done, so we're just going to do it that way. There seems to be more to it than that in terms of having respect for your neighbor. So I hope that you found some aspect of persona to include in your writing process, and thank you for listening.